Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Melinda Hart. You are watching Stamping with Hart. I am an independent demonstrator with Stampin Up, and today we are going to be working with the Coffee with Friends stamp set. We're going to be doing 3 in color cards with the theme and the layout, and we're going to be doing 1 4th of July or patriotic card theme with this set. These are fairly simple cards. I would say that the effort that goes into these cards is coloring with the Stampin Blends alcohol markers. So let's go ahead and get into making these cards. I am stamping with the Coffee with Friends stamp set, and then the Memento Tuxedo Black ink, which is safe to use when you're coloring with alcohol-based markers. I am only going to be featuring the coloring of 1 of the 4 cards today, but if you have any questions, you can let me know. I will list all of the colors that I used for each card on my blog, and you can learn more on my blog at www.stampingwithhart.blogspot.com, and I will have links in the description box below this video as well. So this is going to be one of those pre-recorded videos that is slightly sped up. The color that I am using on her shirt right now is Poppy Parade Light. Our Stampin' Blends come in combo packs, a light and a dark of each color typically. And so this is a great starting point if you are getting into blending or doing some basic shading with alcohol markers. Having a light and a dark in each color allows you to play with that. I just laid in the Poppy Parade dark in the details area where the artist who created the image kind of added those folds in the shirt and things like that. And now I'm coming back in with Poppy Parade light, and I'm just sort of blending the two together. So don't want to completely go over that, but wanted to sort of add to it so that we can see a little bit of, depth with the shadow and the highlight. Now her pants are going to be in Tahitian Tide Light, and then we're going to come in with Tahitian Tide Dark to do some of that layering and adding in a little bit of that shadow and that detail, along the seam where she's sitting in the crease of her legs. So this is just really, really basic coloring with Stampin' Blends. I decided to do 2 rounds of each color just because I wanted to have it pretty saturated, because when I was originally designing these cards, it occurred to me I've been on this complete kick with the Stampin' Blends. So here you can see me coming back in with Tahitian Tide Dark just one more time, and that really does help to kind of smooth it out, if you do layer over layer. One thing I will caution if you do that is make sure you're using a good quality cardstock. I'm using our basic white cardstock because when you use alcohol-based markers and if you leave the tip sitting too long, or if you layer a lot, it can tend to bleed outside of the lines. So just be light-handed with it. You can do many, many layers with Stampin' Blends, but just something that I wanted to mention. So while I was working with my in color themes, which is what I've been doing, and really quickly, this is number 700 in the Natural Tones Stampin' Blends. And I believe this would be the medium light. If I was looking at the conversion chart of where they are in the annual catalog, they changed the names. They changed them from numbers to names. 700 is the one that I think looks a little bit like sunburned skin. There's like a pinkish orange tone to it. And then I'm coming in with 900 and I'm sort of meeting it halfway and blending the 2 colors together. So just sort of blending it out. I think that our faces are naturally a little bit lighter than our necks. So I focused more of 700 on the neck and on the legs, where we would get that sun, and then more of 900 in those places where we tend to be a little bit lighter color, just depending on the skin tone that you're going for. Now, one of the trickiest things that I have experienced when I am coloring hair with Stampin' Blends is getting a good combination for blonde. So this is what I did. I think the Daffodil Delight, the combo pack is too brassy. So I went with ivory for my overlay, and then I'm going to be using ivory a lot for blending. Then I brought in Daffodil Delight Light and just added little bits, just very light-handed with Daffodil Delight Light to try to bring in a little bit of a golden tone to it. Then I brought in bronze just at the roots. So at the head of her ponytail or at the top of her ponytail and then like at the base of her neck. And now I'm coming back in with ivory to blend out the bronze so that it looks more like a shadow than it does brown and then ivory, you know? So just wanted to try to create a natural blonde look. When you see all 4 cards laid out at the beginning, and if you are looking at the photos on the blog, you will see that I did a redhead, a brunette, a blonde, and then what is the other one? Did I do them all? Brown hair, black hair, blonde hair, red hair, I believe is what I did. So here you can just see me working that in. And then at the very end, I brought in Color Lifter, and just in those areas, kind of around the center of her head, I just added just a couple of little dots of Color Lifter to lighten so that it looked like she had a little bit of highlight in her hair. Now I'm coming back in with Poppy Parade Dark for her sandals or for her flip-flops, whatever you want to call those. I left the mug white on all 4 of the girls sitting on the steps. And this is the one that I did the most coloring with. So I'm glad that this is the one that I filmed. But here I decided to actually add some shading to the staircase as well that she is sitting on. So this is the smoky slate combo. I am starting with light, and I just wasn't sure how I wanted to lay down my color for the steps. So I did end up using both. I ended up using light and dark. And I was just trying to decide where I wanted dark to be and where I wanted light to be. And so you'll see in a minute that I kind of changed my mind. And I ended up doing light where she's sitting, so like on the top part of the step. And then to kind of make it look a little bit more recessed in between the steps, I did the smoky slate dark. And of course, you could use whatever color combo that you would want for the staircase. You could leave it completely alone, which is what I did with the in color versions. And then here, if you do want to add, of course, you could do any of our brown combos. You could use the natural tone blends. There's a lot of different things that you can do here. So I ended up really liking the way that the dark and the light worked together on the steps. And then I just kind of had like a sketched look out on the edges so that it was sort of unfinished. And then there's a thing that I really like to do. And again, this is something that I didn't do with all 4. I only did with this one. I grabbed my Pool Party light, and I'm using the brush tip side, which is that wider side. And I'm basically creating like a halo. So it's almost like a halo or an outline. And this is just to kind of give it a glow. And then as I was working my way out, because I did like an inner layer and then an outer layer, I started kind of sketching it so that it looked a little bit, again, unfinished. So just kind of like light flicks of the Stampin' Blend. And then you'll see as it dries, it really starts to lighten up, you know. So we're going to cut this with the Scalloped Contour dies. The Scalloped Contour dies is the die set that I used for this. And then this is sort of that mid-size rectangle that they have in the set. And then there's a second largest and a largest size, and then there's a couple of sizes down. So I will have measurements for each of the sizes that I used over with the instructions on my blog. Okay, and so for this next part here, I wanted to kind of bring in that, it's like a coordinating image from Coffee with Friends where there are 2 croissants and 2 coffee cups with coffee in them on this, well, it's not on a table, but of course that's like what you think. So I wanted to stamp those and color those in the coordinating colors of the outfits. And I was trying to decide if I wanted them on the outside of the card or on the inside of the card. and ultimately I landed on the inside of the card. But I am going to also be using the scallop contour dies to cut out that little plate scene there. Now, I also had this idea in my head that I was going to put plants next to the girls. And I ultimately decided not to do that, but I decided to leave the coloring of the plant in just in case you want to do this. So this plant stamp is actually from the Lazy Days stamp set. I'm using the bundle here because I am going to use the coordinating die to cut the plant out. And the combination that I'm using is the Old Olive Light and Dark, as well as a touch of Granny Apple Green Light. So dark in the like at the base of these plants, Old Olive Light kind of midway, and then on the edges bringing in that Granny Apple Green to kind of give it a tri-tone look. And then I'm bringing in the ivory and bronze combo. I am just very lightly adding some bronze at like almost like a line at the top and the bottom of each part of the barrel or the planter base. And then I'm bringing in ivory in the middle and then blending the two together. And then I'm going to use the Pebbled Path combo, dark on the sides, light in the center. And then I'm going to finish by making it look a little bit metallic. I'm going to bring in the color lifter and just lift out a hair of the Pebbled Path light with my color lifter. It's just a little technique that you can do if you want to make it look dimensional, or you want to make it look like light is hitting it. So we have that sort of you know, the light and the shadow aspect. So because I was working with the patriotic theme with the outfit, I decided to do a red cup and a blue cup. I'm still using the same combos. So the Poppy Parade combo, light all over, just a little bit of Poppy Parade dark to kind of, you know, add a little bit of dimension there on the inside rim of the cup. And then also a little bit off to the side to create a little bit of shadow there. And at the base of the cup where it's sitting with the plate. And then the same exact thing with Tahitian Tide. And then I am bringing in Smoky Slate Light for the spoon. And then I'm going to be doing a little bit of an odd combination for the croissant, but again, it's like the blonde hair, where I was really struggling to kind of find what I thought felt like the right color for a pastry or French pastry here. So we're also going to be doing coffee shades. I'm going to be doing 900 for the dark coffee, which would be in the deep combo. And I'm going to be doing 500, which I believe is in the medium pack. And that looks exactly like latte to me. It's like a perfect latte color. So I wanted to show you both so that you could see the difference in the browns, but they're awesome as coffee. Now I'm bringing in the color lifter because when you look closely at the stamp, they have a heart-shaped design on the top of the coffee. So as if you were at a coffee shop and you ordered these lattes and they were piping hot and they had that white, foamy, cute heart design on them. Well, I think that the color lifter has like an amazing effect on that when you just trace over the heart with the color lifter, and it lifts off some of that brown, and it really makes it look swirly. Like, I thought it looked really cool. Okay, and so now I'm bringing in, this is a crumb cake combo that I'm bringing in now. I'm starting with crumb cake light. I'm going to bring in ivory as like the overall color. And then I'm coming back in with two colors, the crumb cake dark to sort of add a little bit of like a shadow. And then I'm also adding in number 900, which is like a flesh tone color. And I'm just kind of dotting that in and around the top. And then I'm going to blend all of those colors together with ivory to try to make it look like a cohesive pastry. But you know how the croissants are kind of like they're light and they have like a honey type of a look to them. And then there are the crusty areas, you know, the flaky, like more dark brown areas of the croissant. That's what I was trying to capture. So I don't know if I did it effectively or not, but at least you know how I colored those. I had a lot of fun coloring these. Now, ultimately, like I said, I didn't end up using the plant, but I did keep it in here just in case you want to add it, because I do think Coffee with Friends is going to be a nice pairing with Lazy Days. The only thing that I worry about with the two of those is that the scale might not match up perfectly if that is important to you. So I was really struggling with the positioning. I felt like it wasn't sitting right. And that's why I left the plant out. But I do think if I played with that a little bit more, I could really get that right, particularly with the girls that are sitting on the benches. If I bookended the bench with these plants on either side, I think that that would be awesome. So here, what I'm doing is I am bringing in two different types of DSP here. The one that you see me cutting right at this moment is the Cheerful Daisies, or the Fresh as a Daisy designer series paper. And that is because the opposite sides of the floral patterns all have the 2023 to 2025 in colors, kind of like a painted, smeared painted look. And then I'm also using the in color DSP pack in the coordinating colors. So for example, this is Pebbled Path, and I chose the Hart pattern. This is where you see me sort of playing with the plant. And I mean, I probably would have been fine, but it felt out of place. It was like out of theme. So here is where I just want to point out, this is the redhead. The outfit that she is wearing, Pebbled Path light on the top, Pebbled Path dark and on her pants. Her skin tone shade is actually 1000, which would be the lightest color. So the light combo pack for the natural tone blends. And her hair is actually the copper clay combo. Isn't that cool? So here you can see there's no halo around here. You can see I did not use Pool Party. I did not use anything on the staircase. So this is just very plain. And the idea there was to keep it simple. And then we're going to stamp a sentiment on the inside. I was trying so hard to make that plant work, and it just was not working for me because I spent all this time coloring them. But you know what? I'll be using Lazy Days plenty, and I will find another location for that. Has that ever happened to you guys? You can leave me a comment if you're like mixing and matching sets and then you're like, oh, I did all this work and it doesn't fit. Okay, so I am trying to use all of my sentiments from Coffee with Friends just to try to keep it same stamp set, same color theme. I use the Pebbled Path ink here. So we're using the designer series paper, the ink, and the blends all in Pebbled Path, as well as that Fresh as a Daisy DSP as well. And then the scallop contour dies. And then for the inside, you can see I did go ahead and I colored 1 cup in the dark Pebbled Path, 1 cup in the light Pebbled Path, and then of course used that same concept for the coffee, the color lifter, like for the latte part, and then also the same coloring for the croissants. So I felt like it didn't need, I didn't need to have too much there. So I cut this at a full size piece. So the card base is basic white, 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. So it opens, bottom to the top. And then I cut that whole front. So the in color DSP and the Hart pattern is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Then we have our 2 layers, technically 3, 2 layers with the scallop contour dies for the outside, and then that 1 layer for the inside. So we have our outside sentiment and our inside sentiment stamped on that croissant piece. And then I'm also doing this in Moody Mauve. And I'm also doing this in Copper Clay. The reason that I chose these 3 colors is because my In Color Club has used these 3 colors so far, or at least 2 months I've used these colors. So May was Moody Mauve, June was Pebbled Path, and now July is going to be Copper Clay. So my registration is actually open for my In Color Club. Registering for Copper Clay right now. Registration will close on July 3rd. So if you are interested in that, make sure you are on my email list, or if you want to message me and I can send you the information if you would like it. But I'll be closing registration on July 3rd for In Color Club. So I'm collecting my In Color Club colors along with my club members. So I don't have all of the products for Wild Wheat or Boho Blue yet. So I'm just now starting to design and work on the copper clay class that goes along with the club, which is one of the most fun things to do. And my head has just been so into all of these in color lately that's why I was using those. So it's the same concept here. I did use different coloring with this girl. So Moody Mauve is her top. I used a Night of Navy for her pants in the blends. Her hair is actually Pebbled Path. And then this is the ink in Moody Mauve for the sentiment. And then Moody Mauve blends for the cups, the dark cup, the mug is in the dark. And then there's one in the light as well to kind of show off that color combo as to what that looks like. And I'm using the same exact pattern in Moody Mauve with the heart shape, same measurements for these. And then the Moody Mauve layer here with our scallop contour die. And then our girl here. So her skin tone you can see is deeper. I believe with her, I had used, I think it was 800 on her skin tone. So I know I didn't use 700 because I waited until the 4th of July girl to use that color because I felt like, you know, the summer you would be using a little bit more of that reddish tone. But here we are going to do our copper clay layer. So again, same measurements, using that heart shape pattern, but I do think that the line pattern would have been really cool with these as well. If you use the reverse pattern on the heart paper there, you don't actually need that middle layer. You could just do the base layer and then, you know, the image of the girl with the coffee. So I actually ended up doing some of my die cutting off screen just because it was getting complicated. It was taking up a lot of time to keep bringing the machine back in and moving it. I am in a temporary crafting location. I'm partially crafting in my car. I'm partially crafting in the dining room. I haven't been able to work in my office pretty much since May or even the end of April. I'm not even sure. So all of my stuff is everywhere and it's been a little bit frustrating, but I do appreciate your patience as I have had to improvise. So here you can see I have a different color combination here. So I believe with her, I used copper clay on her shirt. I used Pebbled Path on her pants. For her skin tone, I believe it was, I want to say either 300 or 200. I think I used 200 for her skin tone. And then for her hair, I did something a little bit different. I used Basic Black Light in the Stampin' Blend, but I really wanted a really deep saturated black tone. So I brought in my Stampin' Right marker and I just added in a lot more strands of hair to kind of give a two-tone black layer with her hair. So it is like jet black, or I should say basic black, right? Because that is the color both with the Stampin' Blends and with the Stampin' Right marker. So that one was a little bit different. And then of course we're using our copper clay here. And you can see I messed up my stamping on my little card there. Oh, that drives me nuts. But I decided to scrap it and improvise. I do think that the positioning of the girl with the longer sentiments that are in this Coffee with Friends would go great at the feet, like at her feet. So you could actually stamp it right at the top and at the bottom of her feet. I wish I would have tried that. But that's the way it goes when you're designing, right? So I kept this really simple. I kept these cards completely flat. I didn't do any embellishments on these so that these would be easy to mail. So they're very flat. If you want to add embellishments, have fun with that. I decided to stamp directly onto the inside, and then I stamped off once and then stamped that same image in copper, just in copper clay without coloring it. And I thought it looked really cool. So that was how the copper clay card turned out. So now we're going to come back to our Patriotic card and we're going to finish that card. So I actually didn't buy the in color paper in the 2022-2024 colors. Like I didn't have it in Tahitian Tide, and I don't have it in the brights either, which is where Poppy Parade falls. So I just decided to create a background using strips of cardstock. So what I did was I ended up cutting 4 strips in Poppy Parade, a 1/2 inch by 4 1/4 inch each. Same exact thing for Tahitian Tide. And then same thing for Basic White. But what ended up happening with Basic White was I had trimmed those pieces off earlier when I was cutting inserts for cards. And they ended up being slightly larger than a 1/2 inch. So by the time I got to the end of my card, instead of it being a perfect lineup, you can see that the Basic White is just a little bit wider, so I had to trim just a hair off of my my Poppy Parade layer at the very bottom of the card base, which you guys will see in a minute. So I should have double checked that, but I just eyeballing it, I was like, oh, that's a 1/2 inch, I'm fine. And they just ended up being a little bit wider. So this is what happens when we're making handmade cards, right? Like I will say, particularly now when I'm literally crafting in a hurry, like I am crafting under pressure where I have very rigid constraints on my time as to how much time I can spend on it. So, I'm not just, it's been really intense, but I know you guys have been so sweet with all of your comments and everything, and we're going to get through it. We're coming along, but, it has been an interesting summer so far. That is pretty much all I will say. Just trying to get into a new system, a new routine, hoping that all of this temporary stuff that's going on with my schedule will be able to normalize at some point, but I am finding a way, right? We're all finding a way because this business is so important to me. And honestly, crafting it's very important to me, particularly when I need those little breaks, from all the intensity as well of everything that in our situation that we have going on. So it's just one day at a time. And I find things like this, layering this cardstock, I find this so soothing. So I didn't get to do like a full video with a 4th of July theme for handmade cards. And I am sorry that I didn't get to that, but at least I was able to squeeze in one card before the 4th of July, right? So it's a great holiday. And I know that so many people have done absolutely fabulous projects. Hopefully I'll be able to do something a little bit better for the 4th of July next year. But I do hope that you enjoy this card as well as the in color cards. I had a lot of fun making these, and I like doing projects in repeat, meaning it has a similar layout, but I'm changing certain things up about it. I thought about doing like all different patterns for the in color paper, and then I just decided I'm going to use those hearts. Like I'm just going to stick with the same theme. So you guys could do whatever you think is best. And the reason that I was doing so much practice stamping was because I didn't quite have a handle on those stamps. They're a little bit smaller than I'm used to working with for sentiments. So now, as I'm bringing back in the images here, I was just playing around with the layout. What did I want to do there? Because you could have trimmed part of that square off, or I'm sorry, part of that rectangle off and turn it into a square. If you would want to do some like layer over layer with your contour dies. But I wanted to keep mine on the inside. I just thought that was really cute. So, and it's unexpected. Like when you open up the card, that's one of those sort of little handmade treats. I don't always get to decorate the insides of the cards and, envelopes, but I did really enjoy making just these little rectangle die cuts that I could pop on the inside. So I decided to put Poppy Parade for the ink on the outside, and then I used Tahitian Tide ink for the inside. She is the only one that I popped up on dimensionals because I don't have a layer in between the cardstock, stripes or strips, I should say, and then the actual, this layer here, our centerpiece layer with the girl. So I just thought I'll pop this up on dimensional so that it has a little bit more dimension. And I ended up stamping the sentiment directly onto the card on that white strip. Okay, so I want to thank all of you for spending time with me today. You can subscribe, like, comment, share. That really helps the channel. It really helps the video get seen by more people. And I will see you in the next video. Happy 4th of July, everyone.